Hey hockey fans, today I have a special treat for you. I decided to just take the mask off and here I am. So I'm gonna go through a video today. It's going to be pretty extensive, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it into 3 parts. Since there's 31 NHL teams now, I decided to break it up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 5 facts about each NHL team. A lot of these are interesting, and I learned a lot actually that I didn't know, so I feel like you'll probably learn a lot as well. Obviously, the first one's Anaheim. If you haven't seen the movie, the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim were founded by the Walt Disney Company in 1993, and is the only one of its kind since they were founded by a major corporation. Number 2, once the team was sold in 2005, it was shortened to its current name, the Anaheim Ducks. Their colors are black, gold, and orange. The orange in their jerseys and logo actually pays tribute to Orange County, where they're from. Besides who we know as Wild Wing, the Mighty Ducks also used a secondary mascot at one point, and it was a person with no particular costume, which was very interesting. His name was actually Iceman. He debuted during the team's first game in 1993. To make it even more interesting, Iceman actually appeared in the stands playing an electric guitar. So obviously that didn't last very long. Number 5, Rob and Scott Niedermayer were the first set of brothers to actually face each other in a Stanley Cup Finals series in many years. And when asked who she would root for, their mom said that she was pulling for the Ducks since Rob had never won a cup before, while Scott, his brother, had already won 2 before this series. And fun fact that I also threw in here is their current logo is actually a D. So the letter D actually symbolizes 2 things. It symbolizes D for duck, obviously, but if you look closer, it actually symbolizes foot of a duck. So you can see the webs obviously in there when you look at the logo. Moving on down the list, the next team is Arizona. While originating in Phoenix, this team actually went through a various slew of interesting logos. And I mean interesting. Starting with Coyote, which is kind of a cheesy rendition of a name, but it's my opinion. What can I say? It's actually my favorite logo though that they had to offer out of the different assortment. We went from Coyote to Desert Moon, then some weird Lizard King guy, which, yeah. And then now we have the generic Howling Coyote, which the players now wear on their sweaters. The second fact is the team was actually known originally as the Winnipeg Jets. Due to the World Hockey Association actually being obliterated, they were one of 4 franchises to actually be absorbed into the NHL at that time. And then from there, they were granted membership that year. I found this rather interesting that they have yet to actually host an All-Star game. They were given an opportunity in 2006 to hold one, but that didn't work out because the event was actually canceled due to the Winter Olympics. Later on, during the 2010-2011 season, they were given another opportunity, but due to ownership issues at the time, it didn't work out again. Bad luck, I guess. I don't know. So the NHL decided to give the game to the Hurricanes, who it was hosted by. Now, if you think the jerseys that I was referencing to earlier were bad, think about what it could have been. Going to fact number 4, they actually could have been called the Scorpions, which would have been a rather interesting, yeah. As the team was relocated, a public team name voting process was actually held, and the 2 names that stuck out the most were Scorpions and Coyotes. Both are actually inhabitants of the Sonoran Desert, which makes sense. So obviously all the owners and supporters of this club wanted this team to have some sort of name that, had to do with the Sonoran Desert. Makes sense, right? But let's just be glad that they ended up with the name that they have now. Could have been much worse. Okay, moving on to Boston. The Boston Bruins were actually founded by a grocery store chain. Yeah. The powerful team that we know as the Bruins today originated due to a grocery store tycoon named Charles Adams that actually helped found the team in 1924. And surprisingly enough, they were the first NHL franchise in the US and the first thrown in there. They were also the first team to have a black player, which I can't really say African American in this case because he was from New Brunswick. That wouldn't be too accurate. But his name, in case you didn't know, was Wiley O'Ree, and he played his first game in 1958. Third fact is, the Boston Bruins actually played their first 4 seasons in the Matthews Arena, which is the oldest multi-purpose building still accessible in the world. These facts just keep getting better and better, don't they? Now, if you didn't know or don't watch the NHL that often, the Boston Bruins and Montreal Canadiens actually have a very, very serious rivalry going on. And arguably the greatest one in all of hockey. And they've actually played each other more than any other 2 teams have in NHL history. If you're a Bruins fan, you might want to cover your ears for this, but out of the 915 games that they've played against each other so far, Montreal has actually won the bulk of them. Montreal has won 466 of them, while Boston has won only 338, and the rest are a tie. Last fact is, in 1997, Boston actually ended their streak of consecutive playoff experiences after 30 years. This is a feat unrivaled in all of North American sports. Imagine that. And just another fun fact, they actually ended another streak when they beat the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs for the first time in 18 consecutive meetings since 1946. And the Bruins went on to knock out Montreal in 1990, 1991, 1992, and 1994. The next team is the Calgary Flames. The Flames actually get their name after the fire resulting from the March to the Sea that took place in the American Civil War. Fact number 2. During the Flames playoff run in 2004, the city of Calgary actually became the host of a non-stop party, which took place on the 17th Avenue Southwest District, which runs west from the Scotiabank Saddledome. As many as 35,000 fans packed the street during the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, and over 60,000 once the Calgary Flames made it to the finals. The Red Mile Party, as it was called, received coverage in many newspapers and headlines. During the Flames' run to the Stanley Cup Finals in the same year, most of the Flames fans attending the games wore the red jersey with Calgary's flaming C on it. In result of this, the Flames' red home jersey, introduced at the start of the beginning of the 2003-2004 season, were so strong during the playoffs that manufacturer CCM actually had to stop production on all other teams' jerseys just so they could keep up. And if you ever notice the flaming A that's on the Flames jerseys, it actually has more of a meaning than just to show that a player is an assistant captain. It's actually also a tribute at the same time to the team while they played in Atlanta. Their mascot, Harvey the Hound, was actually the first mascot ever in the NHL. Harvey is actually famous for an incident that occurred in 2003 when he was harassing the coach of the Edmonton Oilers at the time, Craig McTavish, where the coach proceeded to rip the mascot's tongue out. That incident made many headlines across North America and led to much humor, even including all mascots in 2003 showing up to the NHL All-Star Game with their tongues hanging out. Montreal's hockey team actually goes by many different names, but the official name is Le Club de Hockey Canadien, hence the CH logo, which this is something that I did not know. We refer to them in English as the Habs, but apparently their real name sounds way more finesse. The Habs were actually the first NHL team to be founded. Their birth took place in 1909 when J. Ambrose O'Brien founded the team. And since then, they have become the longest running pro hockey team and have also won 25.3% of all Stanley Cups, more than any other franchise. The Habs' record for the speediest goal belongs to Bob Gainey, who scored only 7 seconds into the game on May 5th, 1977 against the New York Islanders. Fact number 4. Changing a long-held tradition, the NHL actually switched things up in 2003, making all teams wear dark jerseys. When they were playing at home, obviously red for the Habs, and while they were away, they had to wear white, which was basically done to boost the sale of team jerseys. Montreal, rebelling against this, decided to wear their vintage away jerseys instead. Last fact about the Habs, when Rocket Richard was suspended for the rest of the season in 1955 for striking an official during a game versus the Detroit Red Wings, Montrealers rioted the street, causing millions of dollars in damage. And the Canadiens actually had to forfeit the game and went on to lose in the finals against the Wings. Next team is the Carolina Hurricanes. This team has had quite a few different names and locations over the years. Their first name was actually the New England Whalers, and their location was in Boston. This probably wasn't a good idea because the Boston Bruins were currently in that city too, so it didn't work out. From there, they went on to Hartford and became the Hartford Whalers. And then finally, they came to Raleigh and became the Carolina Hurricanes. Fact number 2, the team's secondary logo is actually a storm warning flag, while the triangle behind the flag actually represents Carolina's research triangle. Eric Stahl was the team's longest serving captain and served for 6 years. He also holds many other franchise records after being drafted 2nd overall in 2003. He holds the record for most postseason points and goals, and also the most hat tricks in a season. And the last fact is, Ron Francis, if you haven't heard of him, captained the team in both Hartford and in North Carolina, and spent 15 years as a franchise player before joining its staff in 2006 and inducted in the Hall of Fame a year later. Moving on to Chicago. The team name from 1926 to 1986 was 2 words, Blackhawks. It was then changed to 1 word in the summer of 1986 when some original documents were found containing the single word. Number 2. The team was actually named after the 86th Infantry Division in World War I. They were nicknamed the Blackhawk Division, after a Native American warrior from Sauk tribe. Blackhawk is a prominent figure in Illinois' history and played a big part in the War of 1812. The original team logo was actually designed by Irene Castle. She was the wife of the team's first owner, Freddie McLaughlin. Fact number 4. The Blackhawks were actually the first NHL team to reach 20,000 fans in attendance in a single game in 1994. And the last fact is, the team's current logo is one of the most well-known and widely liked in all of sports. In the team's clubhouse, the Blackhawk logo is considered sacred, is sometimes illuminated, and rarely stepped on.